Welcome back. Summer may be over for the rest of the country, but in California, September through the fall begins our fire season. High heat combined with Santa Ana winds and hills and mountains of brush so dry it becomes kindling annually results in wildfires that often devastate not just neighborhoods, but entire towns. Quick to blame climate change, of course, Gavin Newsom has done nothing to prevent wildfires like deforestation. In fact, he blames the oil industry while simultaneously pushing for more electrical grids. The state of California has filed a lawsuit against 5 major oil companies in America's biggest oil and gas lobby, accusing them of causing climate change-related harm and destroying natural resources, and accuse them of downplaying the grave dangers of fossil fuels. Who exactly has destroyed natural resources? According to Republican Congressman LaMalfa, California, it was Gavin Newsom himself. LaMalfa delivered an epic rant against Newsom for his destruction of California through his evil climate change agenda, like his refusal of deforestation, leaving the hillside ripe for the burning. He delivered the speech as he argued for the passage of H.R. 1435, the Preserving America's Choice in Vehicles Purchases Act, which would strike down California's electric vehicle mandate. Take a listen.
It's really absurd what we're doing ourselves. We're putting ourselves into the Stone Age so we can go live in caves and eat insects that these guys are prescribing for us.
They want us living like the Stone Age in caves and eating bugs. And no doubt only allowed outside if the caves are CDC approved. And then what motor vehicle will be allowed to drive? Be prepared to power it with your feet like the Flintstones. Because as Congressman LaMalfa points out, they're demanding electric vehicles while knowing there's no power grid to power them up. Heed the warning, says Congressman LaMalfa to America. You don't want what we've got.
We don't want to empower California and perhaps up to 17 other states with this EPA waiver that they can force this stuff upon the people and take away their choices, their mobility, to do what they need to do. Ask a guy who's a contractor, a roofing company, or a farmer, a rancher, a miner, a logger. Do they need their F-250, or do they want to get a fleet of 5 Priuses to go do the same job? They need to have choices, and these mandates. This is at a time when we got, as I said, the cleanest running, most efficient vehicles we've ever made. And, we got to cut down the CO2, climate change. Climate change, give me a break. CO2 is only 0.04% of our atmosphere. They act like it's the end of the world. CO2 is an important building block for plant life. Everything's made out of carbon. And they act like, because they've been able to dream this up as a killer, that we have to stop all things that make CO2. Well, I'll tell you what, if we're too good at this, if we go below 0.02%, plant life starts dying off. Now, we'll never be that good at getting rid of CO2, but we're going to spend trillions doing it, and we're going to make ourselves a third world country here while China and others keep going ahead.
Could not agree more. I tell you what, more rants and policy proposals from Congress, like Congressman LaMalfa, representing California's 1st District, who joins us now. Thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for all of the great work you're doing. It's a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. I was privileged to be able to make that statement on the floor the other day because not enough people are hearing this. They see government closing in on them. They see CEOs of big corporations going along with it here. CO2 is not a killer. It's not a danger. That it's been the fear that they're trying to instill with people. Yep. That climate change is just about at least 50% of speeches around here have some kind of climate change filter as part of their conversation in this place, in our committees, what have you. And it's just a fear angle that government tries to use on people.
Totally, I absolutely agree, and it's astounding to see it. Obviously, we need carbon to live and exist, and it's even more fascinating to know that so many people are buying up this absolute garbage that's just totally false. So I think it's important that we continue talking about it to set the record straight and inform people of the actual truth here. Congressman, tell us more about the measures Governor Newsom plans to sign into law regarding climate and greenhouse gas emissions. What are these bills ultimately going to do, and how will this impact Californians and even potentially the country?
Well, thank the good Lord, the state legislature has adjourned as of a few days ago because there's more bad bills coming out of there that, it becomes the policy, the model for the rest of the country. Like, oh, let's do what they're doing in California. That 1435 bill you were mentioning a few minutes ago was one that would empower regulators, bureaucrats to take away vehicle choices in individual states. California's had that waiver for quite a few years. In the beginning, yeah, you could make a case for it, but now California Air Resources Boards and others that would copy them, they've gone so radical or so of such a scope. They're taking away people's not just automobile choices, but they've want to get rid of barbecues and gas power generators, fuel power generators. In my area, we frequently have power outages due to the forestry issues or weather, things like that. What are you supposed to run your generator on if you can't use gas, diesel, natural gas, or propane? How are you supposed to warm your home or do anything? And if you have an electric car mandate, you won't be able to charge your electric car because sometimes the power is down for days up there and such. So there's so many angles here that the state legislature and the governor are doing that are harmful to people's basic choices, harmful to our economy, our mobility. It's just mind-boggling that people are voting for these folks.
It truly is mind-boggling, and the proposals from these folks are even more mind-boggling. It's just really despicable. What's the response been from your counterparts? I mean, would you say most of your colleagues are jumping on the climate cult bandwagon, or are there others speaking and fighting for the truth like yourself?
Well, I have many of my Republican colleagues that think similarly about this, not as many as maybe ranting the way I do sometimes on the floor, but it's important that we get the word out that CO2 is not a killer.
Yeah.
Any more than water could be a killer if you drink too much of it, but CO2 is very important. Greenhouses infuse much more CO2 to make the plants grow faster. Mm-hmm. It's a necessary part of our whole building blocks of life. So it's being used, though, to spend, as I mentioned in that speech, trillions in order to try and somehow convert our lives to that. And also my home state of California, they want to get rid of the power plants that generate electricity to run electric cars on and electric stoves and other things that they're trying to take away. So it's really, they aren't thinking things through other than I think that's an ultimate control issue for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I certainly think it is about control. They want to dictate how we live our lives, and they're not afraid to take drastic measures. I mean, we've already seen them do away with light bulbs. They're trying to get rid of gas stoves. They want to get rid of our ceiling fans. I mean, it's just endless.
I don't get the ceiling fan part. I haven't even heard a reason for that, because that actually helps you keep your house cooler, cheaper. You don't have to run the big unit there. You can just run it in the main room. I do that at home all the time.
I know. There's no rhyme or reason to any of it, really. It's just all nonsensical hogwash, in my opinion. But again, it's great that we're talking about it, and I really hope others follow in your footsteps so we can talk some sense into those just who are blindly walking us down this dark and dingy, irreversible path. Because once we get there and once we allow them to have total control over every aspect of our lives, as they are clearly working to achieve, there's really no going back.
It's making so many things unaffordable here for middle income, lower middle income folks. They can't spend an additional $20,000 above a regular car. Right. It's hard enough for people with this all inflation. It's government spending and the cost of energy that is doing this. When they make the cost of energy by artificially shutting off our pipelines and exploration, Biden is proud of shutting off exploration and extraction of oil and gas from federal lands. Mm-hmm. All that is doing is driving costs. I'm a farmer in my real life. Last year, before we put our crop in, my cost of fuel doubled, my cost of fertilizer, which is petroleum derived in a lot of cases, tripled. And I have to pass that along. If people want to eat a crop I grow rice, but it's going to be the same for any other crop, then they're going to have a lot of inflation built in due to energy. And the other inflation driver is a massive amount of government spending. That's what we're battling about right now as we try to figure out how to extend government operations beyond September 30 with a more responsible budgeting process, whether it's appropriations. We're going to have to do a continuing resolution for a month, it looks like, in order to get by. But we want to have an in the daylight process, such as Appropriations Committee is trying to do. All this works together, and it's harmful for the people of America because the cost of everything goes up because of energy and government spending. And you see a silly thing like this electric car mandate, which is basically what it is going to cause more and more costs for people. They're taking away the power plants to make electricity. It's one thing after another. It's crazy environmental stuff. And we have to have people, when they go to the polls in the next election, say who's on their side. of their family and their job and their livelihood and their choices. It's really the bottom line.
Right. It really is up to us, the voter, to put an end to this before we pass the point of no return. I think it all boils down to the UN and their 17 Sustainable Development Goals that they're working to achieve by 2030. So the time is ticking, and it's time for us to all get involved. Congressman, we're all out of time for today, but thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate all that
Thanks
you're
for
doing.
having me.
Take care.
We'd like to welcome you to our new home for uncensored news and hard-hitting talk shows. If you're tired of cable companies and social media giants chipping away at your most basic and important right, freedom of speech, by shadow banning, demonetizing, censoring, and policing every single one of your posts, then One America News on Locals is just what you've been looking for. Finally, you'll have the freedom to express your point of view and stay connected with like-minded fellow patriots. And the best part is, OANN on Locals is only $5 a month. All of our credible, honest, unbiased reporting, ad-free talk shows, and exclusive content, all at the fraction of the cost of cable. So to watch, just click the join button to get the news you can't get anywhere else.